There comes a time in life when the body begins to ask a different question. Not, how much more can I achieve? But, how much longer must I carry what is hurting me? After 60, many people discover that they are still carrying burdens that began decades ago. A mistake made in youth, a conversation that ended badly, a child who grew distant, a marriage that did not become what they hoped, a dream that never came true, an apology they never received, a version of themselves they still believe they should have become. These burdens may not be visible. No one sees them when you walk into a room. No one hears them when you smile politely. But you feel their weight. You feel it in the quiet moments. You feel it when an old memory returns without warning. You feel it when you look at younger people and wonder whether you wasted too much time. You feel it when the house becomes silent and there is nothing left to distract you from your own thoughts. By the time we reach 60, we often know how to carry pain very well. We have practiced for years. We have learned how to hide disappointment, how to function while grieving, how to forgive without truly releasing, how to say, I'm fine, while continuing to replay the past. But Buddhist wisdom asks a gentle question. Just because you have carried something for a long time, does that mean you must carry it forever? A traveler may become so used to the weight of a heavy bag that he forgets he is allowed to put it down. He begins to believe the burden is part of his body. He cannot imagine himself without it. But the burden was never the traveler, and the pain you have carried is not your identity. In this story, we will explore 5 burdens that become especially heavy after 60. The burden of regret, the burden of other people's expectations, the burden of guilt for choosing yourself, the burden of relationships that have already ended, and the burden of fear about what comes next. The 5th burden is often the quietest, but it may be the one that steals the most peace. So, take a slow breath. Let your shoulders soften. You do not need to solve everything today. You only need to become willing to set down one stone at a time. At the foot of a mist-covered mountain, there lived an old man named Elias. He was 67 years old. For most of his life, Elias had been known as a dependable man. He had worked hard. He had raised 2 children. He had cared for his parents during their final years. He had rarely asked anyone for help. The villagers respected him because he never complained. But Elias carried a secret. Each morning, before the sun rose, he placed 5 stones into an old leather bag. Then he carried the bag with him wherever he went. 1 stone was smooth and dark. 1 was pale and sharp. 1 was flat and heavy. 1 was cracked through the middle. And 1 was small, cold, and strangely difficult to hold. No one knew why he carried them. When people asked, Elias simply said, "They remind me of what I must never forget." The stones had been with him for years. At first, the bag had not felt very heavy, but as Elias grew older, his back began to ache. His steps became slower. His sleep became restless. Still, every morning, he placed the stones inside the bag. One autumn day, Elias decided to climb the mountain and visit a Buddhist monastery known for its old teacher. The journey was not far, but the road was steep. Halfway up the path, Elias stopped beneath a cedar tree. His breathing had become difficult. His hands trembled. A young monk passing nearby noticed the leather bag. "What are you carrying?" the monk asked. "My life," Elias replied. The monk looked surprised. "Your entire life fits inside that bag. The parts I cannot leave behind." The young monk offered to carry it, but Elias pulled the bag closer. "No," he said, "these are mine." The monk did not argue. He simply walked beside him. When they finally reached the monastery, Elias was taken to an elderly teacher named Master Ren. Master Ren was sitting near a small pond, watching autumn leaves fall across the water. Elias placed the bag beside him. The stones struck the ground with a dull sound. Master Ren looked at the bag. "You have traveled a long way," he said. "I came because I want peace." The teacher smiled gently. "And yet you brought everything that disturbs your peace with you." Elias frowned. "These stones remind me of my mistakes, my duties, and the people I have lost." Master Ren reached into the bag and removed the first stone. "Then perhaps," he said, "we should ask whether remembering always requires carrying." Over the next 5 days, the teacher helped Elias understand the meaning of each stone. The stones did not disappear. The past did not change. But Elias began to see that memory and burden were not the same thing, and neither are love and suffering. The first stone was smooth and dark. Elias had carried it for more than 40 years. When he was 25, he had been offered an opportunity to study music in another city. Music had been the deepest joy of his youth. But his father became ill, and Elias decided to stay home. He found work in a workshop. He married. He had children. He built a respectable life. Yet whenever he heard a violin, a painful thought entered his mind. That was the life I was supposed to live. Over the years, regret changed shape. Sometimes Elias blamed his father. Sometimes he blamed himself. Sometimes he imagined the musician he might have become. In his imagination, that other Elias was always successful, free, and happy. He never imagined that the other life might also have contained failure, loneliness, illness, or regret. Master Ren held the dark stone in his palm. "What does this stone say to you?" he asked. "It says, I chose the wrong life." Did you know then what you know now? No. Did you understand every consequence of your decision? No. Did you choose with the heart and knowledge you had at the time? Elias remained quiet. Finally, he said, "Yes." The teacher placed the stone beside the pond. "There was once a farmer," Master Ren said, "who stood before 2 paths. One path led through a forest. The other followed a river. He chose the river. Years later, he heard that the forest path had become a road to a prosperous town. The farmer spent the rest of his life imagining everything he might have found there. He never noticed that the river path had led him to his wife, his children, and the field that fed his family." Elias looked down. Master Ren continued, "The mind compares reality to an imaginary life that never had to face reality. Regret often appears truthful because it is built from real pain, but it is usually incomplete. We remember what we lost. We rarely remember what our choice protected. We imagine the rewards of the path not taken. We rarely imagine its hidden costs. After 60, regret can become especially powerful. There is less time ahead than behind. The mind begins reviewing old decisions as though it were preparing a final judgment. It asks, why did I stay? Why did I leave? Why did I marry that person? Why did I not speak? Why did I spend so many years afraid? These questions may contain wisdom, but they can also become punishment. Buddhist teaching does not ask us to deny responsibility. If you harmed someone, acknowledge it. If an apology is possible, offer it. If repair can still be made, make it. But once a lesson has been learned, continued self-punishment does not create greater wisdom. It only creates more suffering. Imagine touching a hot surface. Pain teaches you to move your hand. But if you continue holding your hand there to prove that you understand the lesson, pain no longer serves wisdom. It becomes cruelty. Many older people continue punishing themselves for choices made by a younger self who was frightened, uninformed, lonely, or trying to survive. They judge a 20-year-old mind with 60-year-old understanding. This is not fairness. It is hindsight without compassion. Master Ren asked Elias, "If a young man came to you with the same story, what would you say to him?" Elias thought for a moment. "I would tell him that he did what he believed was right." "Would you call him a failure?" "No." "Then why do you speak to your younger self with less kindness than you would offer a stranger?" Elias had no answer. That evening, the teacher gave him a simple practice. "Close your eyes," Master Ren said. "Picture the young man you once were. See his face before he made the decision. Do not lecture him. Do not accuse him. Simply tell him what he needed to hear." Elias closed his eyes. At first, he saw only darkness. Then, he saw himself at 25, thin, tired, standing beside his father's bed, holding the letter from the music school. The young man looked frightened. Elias whispered, "You were not weak. You were trying to love your family. You did not know what would happen. You did the best you could." For the first time in many years, the memory did not feel like a courtroom. It felt like a room where two versions of the same man could finally meet. Your regret may be different. Perhaps you stayed in a marriage too long. Perhaps you left too soon. Perhaps you worked too much. Perhaps you did not save enough. Perhaps you hurt someone. Perhaps you failed to protect yourself. You cannot change the choice, but you can change the relationship you have with the person who made it. You can become the compassion your younger self never received. This does not rewrite the past. It releases the past from having to punish the present. Take one slow breath. Bring to mind one decision you still judge yourself for. Do not examine every detail. Simply notice the younger version of you who stood inside that moment. Say quietly, "You knew only what you knew. You carried only the strength you had. You were human." Then say, "I keep the lesson, but I release the punishment." Again, "I keep the lesson, but I release the punishment." Master Ren picked up the dark stone and placed it in Elias's hand. "Do you still need to remember?" "Yes," Elias said. "Do you still need to carry it?" Elias looked at the pond. Then he set the stone beside the water. The second stone was pale and sharp. Whenever Elias held it, its edges pressed into his skin. "This stone belongs to everyone who told me who I should be," he said. His father had expected him to be strong. His mother expected him to keep the family together. His wife expected him to provide without weakness. His children expected him to solve every problem. His neighbors expected him to remain dependable. Elias had spent much of his life becoming what others needed. Even after 60, he still felt guilty when he disappointed anyone. He attended gatherings he did not enjoy. He gave money he could not afford. He said yes when his body wanted rest. He hid sadness because people relied on his strength. He had lived so long inside other people's expectations that he no longer knew what he wanted. Master Ren ran his finger along the sharp edge of the stone. "Expectations are like clothes," he said. "Some fit us for a season. Some protect us. But if we wear every garment others give us, eventually we can no longer move." A young woman once came to a monastery carrying many masks. One mask was painted with a smile. One looked serious. One looked obedient. One looked brave. The teacher asked why she carried them. She replied, "This is the face my family needs. This is the face my husband prefers. This is the face my children trust. This is the face the village respects." The teacher asked, "And which face is yours?" The woman began to cry. She had worn the masks for so long that she had forgotten. Many people reach later life wearing identities shaped by duty: a good mother, a responsible father, a loyal spouse, a helpful friend, a respectable neighbor. These roles are not wrong. They can be beautiful expressions of love. But when a role requires the complete disappearance of the person beneath it, love becomes self-abandonment. Buddhist wisdom teaches the middle way: not selfishness, not self-erasure. A balanced life where compassion includes the self. After 60, you may still be trying to satisfy people who are no longer alive. You may hear your father's voice in your mind: do not show weakness. You may hear your mother: keep everyone happy. You may hear a former partner: you are never enough. The person may be gone, but the expectation remains active inside you. You continue obeying a voice that no longer exists outside your own mind. Master Ren asked Elias, "Who are you afraid of disappointing?" "Everyone." "Then disappointment is unavoidable." Elias sighed. The teacher continued, "If you live according to one person's expectations, another may disapprove. If you live according to everyone's expectations, you will disappear. There is no life in which no one is disappointed. You can exhaust yourself trying to avoid it, but eventually, someone will still believe you should have done more. The question is not whether others will approve. The question is whether your actions come from wisdom, kindness, and truth. Sometimes, the most compassionate word is no. No, I cannot lend more money. No, I cannot continue solving this problem for you. No, I will not remain in a conversation where I am insulted. No, I am not available today. No, I cannot be the person you expect me to be. These words may feel harsh at first, especially if you have spent decades saying yes. But a boundary is not a punishment. It is a clear description of where your responsibility ends. You are responsible for your actions. You are not responsible for every emotion another person feels about those actions. If someone is disappointed because you stopped sacrificing your health for their convenience, their disappointment does not automatically mean you are wrong. Elias remembered his daughter. She often asked him to solve financial problems. He had helped many times. Each time, he told himself it would be the last. But when he tried to refuse, she said, "You have always been there for me." He heard that sentence as a command. Master Ren asked, "Does helping her make her stronger?" Elias hesitated. "No." "Does it make you peaceful?" "No." "Then perhaps what you call help has become fear." "Fear of what?" "Fear that she will love you less if you stop rescuing her." Elias looked away. The teacher said, "Love that survives only through constant sacrifice is not peace. It is negotiation. You are allowed to be generous. But generosity must have wisdom. Giving without limits can create resentment in the giver and dependency in the receiver. Sometimes saying no allows another person to grow. Sometimes stepping back is the most respectful act. Think of one expectation you have carried for many years. Perhaps, I must always be strong. I must keep everyone happy. I must never need help. I must sacrifice to be loved. I must remain who I have always been. Ask yourself, is this expectation still true? Is it still kind? Is it still mine? Then say, I release the need to satisfy everyone. I choose honesty with compassion. I am allowed to live as a whole person. Master Ren placed the sharp stone beside the first. The stone has edges, he said, but you do not need to keep pressing it into your own hand. The third stone was flat and heavy. Elias called it the stone of guilt. Whenever he rested, guilt appeared. Whenever he spent money on himself, guilt appeared. Whenever he declined a request, guilt appeared. Whenever he imagined a life built around his own peace, guilt appeared. He believed that good people should always put others first. Master Ren asked, "Who taught you that your needs are less important?" Elias thought of his mother. She had worked until her hands were swollen. She rarely sat down. She often said, "A good person does not think of himself." Elias had admired her. But he also remembered how tired she had been, how bitter she became, how she sometimes gave with anger and then blamed others for accepting. The teacher said, "A lamp that gives all its oil at once does not become more generous. It simply becomes dark." Self-care is often misunderstood. It is not the belief that only your needs matter. It is the recognition that your needs also matter. After 60, the body may require more rest. The mind may need more quiet. You may no longer have the energy to maintain every obligation, but many people interpret these natural changes as selfishness. They continue working beyond exhaustion. They continue hosting gatherings they no longer enjoy. They continue caring for everyone while ignoring their own health. They continue postponing peace. One day, they tell themselves, one day, when everyone else is settled, one day, when the children no longer need anything, one day, when the house is perfect, one day, when the responsibilities end. But responsibilities rarely announce an ending. New ones appear, and one day quietly becomes the end of life. There was once an old woman named Leora who cooked for her family every Sunday. Her children were grown. Her grandchildren were nearly adults. Still, every week, she woke before sunrise. She prepared many dishes. She cleaned the entire house. She refused help because she believed a good mother should do everything herself. By the time the family arrived, she was exhausted. She smiled through the meal. After they left, she sat alone and cried. No one appreciated her, she thought. One Sunday, she became ill. Her daughter prepared a simple meal instead. Everyone sat together. They ate soup and bread. They laughed. The house was not perfect. The table was not beautiful. But Leora, resting in a chair, realized something painful. She had believed her suffering was the reason the family gathered. It was not. They came because they loved one another. Her exhaustion had never been required. Sometimes we create unnecessary sacrifice and then feel unseen because others do not recognize the cost. But they may never have asked us to pay that cost. Master Ren said to Elias, "Guilt often appears when we break an old rule. Is the rule true?" Elias asked. "Not always." "Then why does the guilt feel so strong?" "Because the body can remember a rule even after the mind has rejected it. You may understand intellectually that rest is healthy, but when you rest, discomfort rises. That discomfort does not prove you are doing something wrong. It may simply prove you are doing something unfamiliar. Choosing yourself after years of self-neglect can feel selfish at first. That feeling is part of the transition, not evidence of wrongdoing. There is an important difference between guilt and responsibility. Responsibility says, "My action harmed someone. I should repair it." False guilt says, "Someone is unhappy because I had a need." These are not the same. If you cancel a promise carelessly, responsibility may be appropriate. But if you decline an invitation because your body needs rest, guilt is not necessary. If you abandon a person who depends on you without warning, responsibility is real. But if you ask an adult child to manage their own problems, guilt may be false. Choosing yourself does not mean choosing against everyone else. It means including yourself in the circle of compassion. Elias told the teacher that he had always wanted to spend a month near the sea. He had saved enough money, but each time he considered going, he thought of his children. "What if they need me?" Master Ren asked. "Are they incapable of living for 1 month without you?" "No." "Do they encourage you to go?" "Yes." "Then who is stopping you?" Elias looked at the heavy stone. "My guilt." The teacher nodded. "Then perhaps guilt has become a way of avoiding freedom. Freedom can be frightening. When we stop blaming responsibilities, we must decide what we truly want." Some people remain busy because stillness would force them to meet themselves. But after 60, choosing your own life is not betrayal. It is a return. Place your hand over your heart. Ask, what do I need that I have been afraid to admit? More rest, more space, more joy, more help, more solitude, a different routine, a new beginning. Now say, my needs are not a moral failure. Rest is not selfish. Joy does not require permission. I am allowed to choose a peaceful life. Master Ren took the flat stone and placed it beside the others. The earth does not apologize for receiving rain, he said. You do not need to apologize for receiving care. The fourth stone was cracked through the middle. Elias said it represented the people who were no longer part of his life. A brother who had stopped speaking to him. A friend who betrayed him. A marriage that had ended in cold silence. A son who lived far away and rarely called. Some relationships had ended physically. Others continued in name but had lost warmth long ago. Still, Elias carried them. He replayed arguments. He imagined conversations. He waited for apologies. He rehearsed what he would say if they returned. His body lived in the present, but part of his heart remained in rooms that no longer existed. Master Ren placed the cracked stone on a wooden table. There was once a monk, he said, who carried a broken bowl everywhere. The bowl had belonged to his teacher. It could no longer hold water, but the monk refused to leave it behind. One day, the bowl broke completely. The monk wept. Another teacher asked him why. Because this bowl connected me to the person I loved. The teacher replied, the love was never inside the bowl. Relationships are often like vessels. They hold shared time, memories, promises, identity. When the relationship ends, we fear that releasing the vessel means releasing the love or meaning it once contained. So we hold broken things, not because they still serve us, but because we confuse letting go with betrayal. Letting go does not mean the relationship did not matter. It means you stop asking the past to become the present again. Some people leave through death, some through distance, some through conflict. Some remain physically close, but emotionally unavailable. The ending may not have been fair. You may deserve an apology. You may deserve an explanation. But peace cannot always wait for another person to become wise enough to give what they withheld. There is a story about 2 monks traveling after heavy rain. They reached a flooded road where a woman was unable to cross. One monk lifted her and carried her through the water. Then he set her down. Hours later, the second monk said angrily, "We are not supposed to touch women. Why did you carry her?" The first monk replied, "I set her down at the river. Why are you still carrying her?" Many people spend years carrying someone who left long ago. The body has crossed the river, the mind has not. Forgiveness is often discussed here, but forgiveness is misunderstood. Forgiveness does not require reconciliation. It does not require trust. It does not require pretending harm did not happen. Forgiveness can simply mean I refuse to let this injury continue directing my inner life. You may forgive someone and never speak to them again. You may wish them peace from a distance. You may release hatred while maintaining a boundary. You may stop hoping they will become the person you needed. This is not weakness. It is freedom. Elias told Master Ren about his brother. They had argued over their father's property 20 years earlier. Words were spoken that neither could take back. They had not met since. "Do you want a relationship with him?" the teacher asked. "I do not know." "Do you want peace?" "Yes." "Then begin with peace, not reunion. Sometimes reconciliation is possible. A letter can be written, a call can be made, an apology can be offered without demanding one in return. But sometimes contact would reopen harm. In those cases, release can happen within. You can say, "This relationship has ended. I honor what was good. I acknowledge what was painful. I no longer require a different ending before I continue living." The hardest relationships to release are often the ones that never became what we hoped. The parent who never understood us, the child who never came close, the partner who never changed, the friend who never apologized. We do not only grieve what happened, we grieve what never happened. This grief is real, but the imagined future can become a burden when we continue waiting for it after the possibility has passed. A door may be closed. Peace begins when you stop injuring your hands trying to force it open. Then you turn and notice the other doors still available. Friendship, community, solitude, purpose, compassion, a new way of living. Bring to mind one relationship you are still carrying. Do not ask whether you should forgive completely today. Ask only, what am I still waiting for? An apology? Recognition? A return? A different past? Now say, I release the future I imagined. I keep what was true. I mourn what was lost. But I will not remain where the relationship ended. Master Ren lifted the cracked stone. Broken things can still be remembered, he said, but they do not need to be carried against the heart. Elias placed it beside the others. The fifth stone was small and cold. It seemed lighter than the others, yet Elias said it was the hardest to put down. It represented the future, illness, dependence, losing memory, losing people, death. After 60, the future can feel different. In youth, time appears endless. Plans stretch forward. There is always another season, another attempt, another beginning. Later, the horizon becomes more visible. This can bring wisdom, but it can also create fear. Elias often woke at night and listened to his heartbeat. He wondered how many years remained. He imagined becoming weak. He feared needing help. He feared being forgotten. He feared the moment when everything familiar would disappear. Master Ren held the small stone. This stone is cold, he said, because fear removes warmth from moments that are still alive. A man once visited the Buddha and said, I cannot enjoy today because I am afraid of tomorrow. The teacher asked him, Is tomorrow here? No. Then where does tomorrow live? In my mind. And where is your life? The man looked around. Here. Fear of the future is unique because it causes suffering twice, once in imagination, and perhaps once in reality. Sometimes the feared event never comes, yet we sacrifice years preparing emotionally for it. We grieve before loss. We die before death. We become lonely before anyone leaves. This does not mean preparation is wrong. Practical wisdom matters. Make a will, care for your health, organize your finances, speak honestly with family, prepare for the natural realities of aging. But preparation and fear are not the same. Preparation acts. Fear rehearses helplessness. Buddhist teaching invites us to remember impermanence. At first, impermanence may sound frightening. Everything changes. The body changes. Relationships change. Life ends. But impermanence is also why pain changes, why grief softens, why new understanding appears, why a difficult season does not remain forever. A sunset is beautiful, not because it stays. It is beautiful because it is here briefly. The same is true of life. Its temporary nature does not make it meaningless. It makes attention necessary. Master Ren asked Elias to hold the cold stone tightly. After a while, his hand began to ache. "What do you feel?" the teacher asked. "Pain." "Has the future arrived?" "No." "Then your pain is coming from how tightly you hold the thought of it." Fear often tells us that constant worry will protect us. It will not. Worry does not add time. It only removes presence from the time we have. You may fear becoming dependent, but today, perhaps you can still walk. Feel your feet. You may fear losing someone, but today, perhaps they are still here. Speak kindly. You may fear death, but today, breath is still entering your body. Receive it. This moment is not a waiting room before death. It is life itself. There is a Buddhist reflection called the 5 remembrances. I am of the nature to grow old. I am of the nature to become ill. I am of the nature to die. I will be separated from all that is dear to me. My actions are my true belongings. These truths are not meant to create despair. They are meant to wake us. If aging is natural, we do not need to treat it as personal failure. If separation is natural, we can love more gently. If death is certain, we can stop postponing life. If our actions matter, we can choose kindness now. Master Ren asked Elias, "What would you do differently if you stopped demanding certainty from the future?" Elias thought for a long time. "I would visit the sea. I would speak to my brother. I would play music again. I would rest." The teacher smiled. "Then fear has not protected your life. It has delayed it. You do not need to become fearless. Fear is natural, but fear does not have to become your guide. Courage after 60 may look quiet. Making a phone call, taking a trip, learning something new, asking for help, going to the doctor, saying goodbye, saying I love you, allowing yourself to enjoy a day without asking how many remain. Take a slow breath in and release it gently. Say, I do not know how much time remains, but this moment is here. I do not need certainty to be peaceful. I will prepare with wisdom, but I will not rehearse suffering. Then ask, what life am I postponing because I am afraid? Let the answer come slowly. Master Ren placed the small cold stone beside the others. For the first time, Elias's bag was empty. Elias looked at the 5 stones beside the pond. The dark stone of regret, the sharp stone of expectation, the heavy stone of guilt, the cracked stone of ended relationships, the cold stone of fear. He expected to feel immediately free. Instead, he felt strangely uncertain. What do I carry now? He asked. Master Ren handed him the empty bag. Nothing, for a while. Elias looked uncomfortable. I have always carried something. That is why emptiness feels frightening. The teacher pointed toward the pond. An empty bowl is useful because it can receive. A mind filled with old burdens has no room for the present. Elias sat beside the water. Without the stones, his body felt lighter, but his mind kept reaching for them. He thought of his regret, his daughter's expectations, his guilt, his brother, his fear of death. Master Ren said, "Putting down a burden once does not mean the mind will never pick it up again. Practice is the act of noticing. Ah, I am carrying regret. Ah, I am carrying guilt. Ah, I am carrying fear." Then gently place it down again. Healing is not a single moment. It is a repeated choice. Some days, the past will feel close. Some days, loneliness will return. Some days, an old wound will speak loudly. Do not treat this as failure. The mind follows familiar paths. You are creating a new one, a path where memory does not become punishment, where love does not require self-erasure, where rest does not create shame, where endings are allowed to end, where the future does not steal the present. The following morning, Elias began walking down the mountain. The young monk who had accompanied him earlier saw the empty bag. "Where are the stones?" he asked. "Still beside the pond. Will you miss them? Perhaps. Will you return for them?" Elias smiled. "I may return to the mountain, but not for the stones." When he reached the cedar tree where he had struggled before, he stopped. The road had not changed. His age had not changed. His past had not changed. But the journey felt different because he was no longer carrying everything at once. Let us return to the 5 burdens. The first burden is regret. You cannot change the road you chose, but you can stop using today to punish the person you were yesterday. Keep the lesson. Release the sentence. The second burden is other people's expectations. You are not required to become everything everyone needs. Compassion does not ask you to disappear. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to become more honest with age. The third burden is guilt for choosing yourself. Rest is not selfish. Joy is not irresponsible. Your needs are not a moral failure. You belong inside the circle of care you have created for others. The fourth burden is relationships that have already ended. Honor what was real. Mourn what was lost. Repair what can be repaired. But do not remain trapped in a conversation that life has already finished. The fifth burden is fear of what comes next. Prepare wisely, but do not sacrifice today to an imagined tomorrow. Life is not waiting somewhere ahead. It is happening now. Now allow your body to become still. You do not need to carry the entire past through this moment. Let the chair hold your weight. Let the floor hold your feet. Let the earth hold what you no longer need. Breathe in slowly and breathe out. Imagine that you are walking along a quiet river at dusk. In your hand is an old leather bag. Inside are the burdens you have carried. You reach into the bag and find the first stone. Regret. Hold it for a moment. Notice its weight. Then place it beside the river. Say, "I keep the wisdom. I release the punishment." Reach into the bag again. The second stone is expectation. The demand to be strong, helpful, perfect, needed, approved. Place it beside the first. Say, "I cannot satisfy everyone. I choose truth with kindness." Now take out the third stone, guilt. The guilt that appears when you rest, when you say no, when you choose your own peace. Place it down. Say, "My needs also matter. I am allowed to receive care." The fourth stone is cracked. It carries old relationships, unfinished conversations, people who left, apologies that never came. Hold it gently. Then place it beside the water. Say, "I honor what was. I release what is no longer here." Finally, reach into the bag. The last stone is fear. Fear of age, fear of illness, fear of loss, fear of death. Feel its coldness. Then open your hand. Let it rest upon the earth. Say, the future is not here. This breath is here. This moment is my life. Now look inside the bag. It is empty. Notice what appears inside you. Perhaps relief, perhaps sadness, perhaps uncertainty. All of it is welcome. You have carried these burdens for a long time. The body may need time to trust lightness. Breathe gently. You do not need to fill the empty space immediately. Let it remain open. Open for music, open for friendship, open for rest, open for laughter, open for quiet mornings, open for a life that is not built only around duty and memory. Repeat slowly. I am not my regret. I am not other people's expectations. I am not my guilt. I am not the relationships that ended. I am not my fear. Then say, I am still here. Again, I am still here. And finally, I am allowed to live lightly. After 60, peace does not come from having a perfect past. It comes from no longer demanding one. It does not come from controlling everyone around you. It comes from releasing what was never yours to control. You have carried enough. You have survived enough. You have proven enough. The years ahead do not need to become a final period of punishment. They can become years of simplicity, honesty, rest, compassion, and quiet freedom. Perhaps you cannot put down every burden today. That is all right. Choose one old regret, one expectation, one unnecessary guilt, one relationship you keep replaying, one fear that has taken too much of your attention. Place it down for this evening. You can decide tomorrow whether you still need it. Until we meet again, flow gently. Release what you cannot hold and return to peace. Good night. May your steps become lighter. May your heart become quieter. And may the rest of your life belong fully to you.